Yeah, do what you do.
Warriors, wake up. Thank you for your patience. This has been a half hour of me trying to find reception, and short of turning my head upside down and trying to stand on the moon in these beautiful Sedona rocks where I am now and trying to get this dog to shut up, we are dedicated to your freedom and empowerment. And this video will work this time because somehow I broke into someone's house and I am sitting next to the Wi-Fi, and they'll probably kick me out and put me into a prison cell, but I'm dedicated to your freedom. So anyway, 12 o'clock, Friday lunchtime liberation with on my Diane Kazer Facebook page. But this is not going to be my personal page because I had a last minute change up here. There's just a lot of things that have just changed up and I got a little bit stressed out about it, but we are here. I am Diane Kazer. Today we're going to talk about a very, very important topic that is something that is really, truly turning our head up. I'm not upside down trying to get reception. And something very shameful happened to me. To speak up about it because whenever I'm scared, I know that I need to say something. Whenever I am feeling shameful, I know that you probably are feeling the same. And so I brought someone on today, an expert, Barry Selby. Can you guys hear this dog? I just want to, if this dog is truly annoying, maybe to a different part of the house. I brought on an expert, Barry Selby, and he is someone who I truly know is someone who represents love and light. And he is someone who stands for the feminine divine. He's someone who speaks to the woman's heart instead of our ovaries. And what I mean by that, is that I feel this overwhelming sense of peace and joy when I talk to Barry. And this is what I believe men need today in order to feel peace within themselves. And it's what women need to see, that there are men out there and there is hope for us to come together and love once again. So Barry, thank you for being here today. Did I introduce you with the amount of reverence that you truly embody for us?
I'm touched by what you said, and it's above and beyond, so I'm grateful for that. One quick thing I'm noticing, by the way, I don't see the live icon on your screen, so are we live? Just checking.
Yeah, we're live.
Okay, I just don't see it on my screen.
Like commenting, so
yeah, because I can't see it on my side. Okay,
if
cool.
You can,
just
so
checking.
If you go to and actually, you guys, if you are on here watching, and if any of what we're talking about today inspires, empowers, uplifts you, I would love you to hit the share button and share this with your community, even if it's in a private message, because so many of us are feeling we're living in shame and guilt about being harassed, being attacked, feeling assaulted. And one of the things that I want to call attention to today is there's going to be 3 steps we're going to talk about. But one of the things I want to call our attention to today is that by no means am I saying that any of this is our fault. I'm saying that that we can be mindful about that maybe can minimize likelihood or onset of attack or assault sexually. And I definitely am going to point the finger at myself and say, here's what I could do different in the future. Here's what in the past I could do different. And I'm going to go through an inventory of things that I've been talking to many other that have been experiencing the same result in an otherwise very conflicting head banging situation. And if we're feeling attacked on the outside, what I have been finding and working with women, and Barry's going to speak to this throughout as well, is that I'm also feeling like I'm attacking myself on the inside. So our outside world tends to be a reflection of our inside world, our inside thoughts about self, hurts, trapped trauma, things, or things that we do outside of ourselves to gain attention, where we might be feeling like we need love and how we get our needs met. So let me just provide a quick context of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to try to cover this in 30 minutes or less, so we'll be done just a little bit after 1 o'clock p.m. time. We started late. I apologize, and thank you guys for being patient. And if you are watching today, you can always watch it later, and you can share this with you. So today is the context, and here there's going to be three 3 steps. I don't even, because it's not simple. This requires a lot of going into our psyche and going into our past and asking questions and being curious, is cultivating curiosity. So there's 2 things that I would say as the theme of what I have felt since this assault has happened. One is that inner shame leads to self-blame. And then this one is depression equals oppression. And for those of you who have it, I'm by no means looking at myself and saying, oh, poor me, you know, what I'm saying is that what happened to me is shitty, but also what can continue to happen to me would be shittier if I didn't grow from this.
Right.
And so last week, I came home on Thanksgiving night, and my roommate had a friend over, and he was extraordinarily drunk and possibly on drugs. I don't know. It's not my business to know. And I was just doing my own thing. And I was in the kitchen, and I was followed into the kitchen, and I was pushed up against the cabinetry, and he put his agenda behind me, onto me, forced it onto me, and used his hand and reached it around and grabbed my temple and said a few words, made some noises, and I quietly, peacefully backed away, didn't make a noise, went and walked my dog, came back, tried to go to sleep, tried to pretend like it didn't happen, and went to sleep. Didn't go to sleep, went to my room and kept the door open so my dog could come in after she drank water, came in. Before she even came in, he came in through the door and said, basically said, I need to sleep with you. You need to let me in your bedroom. And I said no like 3 times. And after that, he started screaming, and he called me a slut, and he said, you, and slammed the door. And my dog was freaked out. One little thing is that everyone, I want you to be very mindful of what's happening with your animals, because one of the things I noticed before, when I first got home, and the energy in the house is all weird, and I was like, what's going on here? There's drugs and drunk, and I think it felt like all of that, and I could smell it, and there was just stuff everywhere, is when I went to go open my door, to go into my bedroom door. This is something that my dog is normally like really excited to go into my room because her toys are in there and my door's closed. She was banging her head against my door. She was banging her whole body against the door. And I was like, whoa, what's going on? I was like, this is not normal Kayla activity. It's my dog. And I didn't think anything of it. And we got into my room, and she started doing hot laps all around the room, like psychotic hot laps, like not happy hot laps. They were frenetic, frantic hot laps. And I was like, I don't know what's going on with my dog right now. But at first I thought it was kind of cute. Then I was like, she's got crazy eyes. So that was before the assault happened. So pay attention to what your animals are doing. They pick up on energy around us. Pay attention to the energy around you and people around you. These were all little signs. These were all little clues that I could have picked up on, and I was being mindful of, but I wasn't thinking, oh, this means that. So pick up on your kids, your friends, your siblings, your coworkers, energy around us, because there's stuff that's happening around us, and it's for us to just be mindful of. And what does this mean? And slow down enough to go, instead of going, oh, it's probably just because, right? So anyway, that's what I experienced last week. I didn't know what to do. I felt a lot of shame about the situation, and I thought, I'm not going to talk about it. And then the next day I felt very shameful about it. I was like, oh my God, I brought this onto myself again. I did this to myself again. I flashed back to times in the past where I used to drink, and I used to be out of control, and things would happen to me, and I would blame myself. But I realized that shame is what the rapist, not the victim. Shame is what the assaulter, not the victim, should feel. Yet whomever is the attacker is transferring their shame onto the victim, and that her shame, our shame, renders us mute. We want to quiet up. We bottle it up. We suppress it. We oppress it. It becomes our digestive problems. It becomes disease. It becomes depression. And our muteness is seeming to confirm the moral rightness of this transfer. And the feeling of shame seems to make being the victim of rape or action or assault the act of wrongdoing. And I don't want to feel that. I don't want you to feel that. I don't want women to feel that. So I went, okay, no, I can't feel this. I'm not going to swallow this. I'm not going to let this become more disease and inflammation and fear. And so I decided to speak up, and I was like, guys, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And so I posted on my Facebook and I got hundreds of comments of support. Thank you guys all for saying you need to report this to police. I didn't even think about that. I honestly did not think about that. So I reported it to police. I moved out. I started to move out and I moved out within 2 days. I'm in safety. I didn't really fear for my life, but I just don't want these actions to be condoned so that it happens over and over and over and over again, especially considering this guy's a yoga teacher. He's claiming to walk the spiritual path and leading a ton of other people into that same thing. So we need to be very mindful about who our leaders are. So this is where I'm going to bring in Barry. Here's the 3 steps that I want to talk about today. The first step is to ask, the question is for growth. How can I grow from this? How can I minimize the likelihood of its reoccurrence? We're going to talk about that. Step 1 of this answer is awareness. How did I play a part in this? How do I get my needs met? And what was my relationship with my first male figure? Step 2, we're going to talk about resolution, not retribution. What hidden hurts have I suppressed? People, situations, etc. I'll talk about some of mine. I replayed in my dreams and nightmares. What are the locations of these trapped traumas, like our thyroid or our ovaries, our adrenals that drain our energy and our hormonal imbalances? And then to talk about it with loved ones, talk about it like this, talk about it openly, open up, detox the demons. And then the third step is to action to prevent having to have a reaction. So prevent it from even happening to begin with, being yourself, but also being mindful of your intentions and how they reveal themselves and how we present ourselves. Like, are we showing our cleavage? Are we it's erring on the side of caution, but also of being ourself and expression. Being a boundary badass. And I'm going to give you an example of that and what even inspired my post to begin with to speak up. And then also rewarding men like Barry who honor the feminine divine, as well as honoring the kind of men, like the man who I'm not here with him, renting Airbnb. And he's a lot like you, Barry. So let's get right into it because I've just been talking a lot. And Barry, I want you to have a space to be able to comment. If any of you guys want to comment or ask questions like that dog just did, that dog is speaking up more than you guys are. I don't want you guys to hide from this. I really want you to get out and open with this. And this is not like, oh, poor me. Again, this is like, how can I take charge of this? How can I grow from this? And how can I cultivate a space for consciousness so we could all open up and just grow together, all of us, including the men that are doing this, right? So Barry, with all of this, how would you lead into this? What's going on?
Where do I start? Yeah.
First of all, what's going on?
Okay, the first thing that comes up to me right away is I want to know who the hell made a law that when women get attacked or abused by men, that they should feel the shame. There's something in the archetype of society that's screwed up so much that women think it's their fault that a man approaches them. I'm going to call bullshit right there. If men can't take care of themselves and be honorable to women, they don't just be around them, period. Yeah. So ladies, how you dress is not part of the problem. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, so yeah, lots of beautiful women in very shapely clothing, yoga clothes, everything else. And I notice it, but I don't act on it. And right. Yes, some men need to be educated, sometimes with a 2x4 to stop the behavior. But the second thing I want to get to really clearly is that, ladies, if a man did what he did to you, Diane, shame should be the furthest thing from your mind. It's not your fault. What he did, whether it's an aberration, whether it's because he was drunk, doesn't make a difference. His inhibitions came down and his drive took him that far. He needs to be educated. And sometimes a punch to the gut, a kick to the balls, or a slap upside the head, seriously, may shock him out of his behavior because he goes, whoa, what was I thinking? That's part of boundaries. And boundaries, if someone crosses your boundaries, again, not to feel shame, but go, okay, how do I resolve my boundaries? How do I take care of myself again? I've got so many clients and friends who've been through abuse when they were children. And part of this tying back into where it starts from, one of the challenges is that we as adults take on behaviors when we're kids because we learn from our parents how to be loved. And if you're someone who was, when you were younger, abused or neglected or whatever happened to you as a child, you'll tend to repeat that as an adult. So the first thing is, if this has happened to you, is to heal the part inside from when you were younger. That's a big part of the homework that you'll be talking about.
So this is step 1.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this is a part of what I want you to talk about too, Barry, because you're getting into step 1 right now, which is step 1. If instead of suppressing this and shaming ourselves and feeling guilty, which is like, ladies, I felt so much of that. And let me explain, to answer this question, Barry, where is there a law? How are we taught and shaped to feel this shame about ourselves when this happens? And where I went was, my God, all of those years that I felt like I wanted to get my needs met from another male the same way that I felt love from my father, right?
Yeah.
And so I said, oh, well, I'm gonna look around. Oh, look, those girls where I was raised, these girls wore like super low cut shirts. And that was like right on the onset of like rap when girls were wearing Daisy Dukes, right? So I would wear Daisy Dukes and a short shirt. And I was like 12 and 13 years old. And I'm looking for love and looking for traction. And that's how I was getting my needs met. And all that meant to me was gaining attention from the opposite species, which my father was an amazing person. So we had a great relationship. Not every female has a great relationship with a father. Some of them had a disappearing male. Some of them had multiple males in their life, different stepfathers and fathers and broken households. So like you said, our experience of our childhood shapes the kind of attention that even if it's like uncomfortable attention, we just get that kind of attention. So for me, I was, Lucy and Aaron, girlfriends, I love you too. Lucy and Aaron are listening in. Both yoga girls. So
that's
this is what I'm imagining.
Yeah. Just, I want to say this again, by the way, you just mentioned that about the guy being a yoga, being a leader, being a spiritual person. I have some friends in LA who are going through it now with this woman outed a guy who all these women knew, who basically the same thing, did worse to her than this guy did to you. And she basically outed him to the community because he was wearing that as a badge of honor, but not behaving to match the badge. So it doesn't. So again, it's almost like it's not what you say, it's what you do. For men out there, it's your actions speak louder than your words. And for some cases, these men are using this new age way of being to pretend to be special, but act abhorrently. And I've even seen it in my spiritual community. I've seen men who one guy got put in jail because he sexually molested his daughter. He was a minister. So it doesn't make a difference what the badging is. It's about what is really going on. So don't, let me say it this way. Don't presume because of the badge or the office that person holds that they can respect you. Feel inside. You said at the beginning, you had that intuition when you walked in the house. You had that sensitivity, but you didn't necessarily follow it. So the thing is, next time, rewind your thinking. So when you do notice that, respond to it versus ignoring it. And that's what, when you meet people, the same thing.
That's the awareness what kind of power are we giving away to people who have not yet earned our trust?
Right.
And that is where I myself, when I explore this, I go back to, well, I trusted my father. He was an amazing guy. I have trusted him with all my heart. He treated me respectfully, sacredly. We had fun together. We laughed together. And so like, they say that we look for a relationship from the opposite sex in the way that we were raised. And so, like I said, it's not always like functional, but I was looking for a father in another male. And it sounds weird, but it's like that, Carl Jung stuff, right? But anyway, that's all psychology stuff for a whole nother video. But
it means also that you can't assume that other men are just like your dad. That's the mistake we make. We think because one person treats us that way, all others should do the same thing.
Right.
It's not true.
Exactly.
So it's like you interview them. You have to be really clear to learn, to get to know these people.
Right. Absolutely. And I didn't. And this guy was just, in my space. And I thought, okay, well, he's here and he's in my home. And so therefore I can just be myself and be comfortable. But that wasn't the case.
That's right.
And that's where you draw the line too. Like I, even thinking back to like my roommate, well, I trusted him. And so you get to know people a little bit more intimately over time. But anyway, we can't know everyone. So, the first step on awareness is to ask the question of how does this person earn my trust? Am I just giving trust like too easily? And so that's the awareness is like knowing who do we give it to? Who do we give our trust to? How do they earn that? What are the conditions under which I would give them that trust?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's some noise.
Yeah. No. What are your green flags? What are your red flags?
Yeah. What are the red flags? Absolutely.
Right. And one of the green ones the same. These like, what are your green flags? Things you must have in connection with anybody. Well, the red flags where you just go, okay, I need to walk away and be willing to.
And we don't really know what the red flags are until we go through these experiences. And so, the thing is for me and where I went with shame and with all of this. So the first step we talked about because I want to talk about the next one, which is resolution. But the first questions I want everyone to ask themselves with awareness is, how did I play a part in this? And I'm not pointing the finger at you, but it's, how did I play a part in this? How do I get my needs met? If your needs are met by wearing a low cut shirt with your boobs hanging out and your butt cheeks hanging out, and you get attention and flirting and winking and gestures, and if that's how you get your needs met and that's how you feel loved, then you're going to continue to walk around and you're going to kind of ask for it, right? And so
that's a question. Okay, let me speak.
That's
to that
why
for a
I said
second.
ask for it, right? This is why I'm saying ask for it, because then
quotes,
someone
right.
will be like, well, yeah, but this is what makes me feel sexy. So this is where men and women both need to act differently,
Well,
right?
the thing is,
So
and here's the thing, you can dress in a sexy way because that makes you feel good and still have healthy boundaries. They don't contradict each other.
Okay, so we'll talk about that in step 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, cool. So we're going to talk about that step 2. Sweet. So step 2 is resolution, not retribution. So what hidden hurts have I suppressed, like people and situations? Where are the locations of these trapped traumas? So a lot of women don't speak up and they have thyroid problems, right? This is like an energetic center. I used to myself. And then where are we walking around with a mask, pretending like everything's okay, pretending like it didn't happen? I've heard a lot of people who have said things like, I was sexually abused when I was a child, and I told my mom about it. This is still happening today everywhere. Mm-hmm. And I told my mom about it. My mom said, and it was let's say it was an uncle, and my uncle molested me, and I told my mom about it. My mom was like, oh, he would never do that.
Right. Yeah.
And
I've got clients like that. Exactly.
It's like everywhere. I swear that now that I've opened up about this, people are like, oh yeah, this isn't. And I work with women all day long about nutrition and cleansing. And so this is a part of their cleansing journey, is cleansing the toxic thoughts that bring on the toxic body. And so the trapped trauma and the hidden hurts, and this all like stacks up under the liver, and the liver is fear, and the kidneys are anger. And so I'm sorry, other way around. The liver is anger and the kidneys are fear. And so that's where these emotions manifest, and they get trapped and they back up. And then we're like, why am I so fat, fatigued, and frustrated? So it's a very important part about like healing hormones too. So we've talked about this many times, Barry. So here's the thing with the first step is not fuck you and no, I'm going to take you out, and I'm going to, because a lot of people are like, let me blast him on Facebook. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel about all this stuff right now. I just want him to see that he did something that is not appropriate, so he thinks about it next time. And the hidden hurts that I have suppressed, when I think about this, where have I not acted out before? Where have I not taken action before? So the moment I started going into like feeling guilt and shame about this, I started going into the chronological order of all of the different situations in my life. This guy, this night, this blackout, this sex with this man, this rape, this date rape night, this surrendering too easily, this saying yes when I really meant no. And there were hundreds, Barry. There's hundreds of times. And I've been resolving, having different dreams, different flashbacks of many of them, and going into each one of them and resolving them, because I immediately went back to, see, I brought this on myself because I've been allowing this for a long time. And so I'll comment on what my friend Melissa had said on one of the hundreds of comments that had been brought up. And I really liked this. She said, I'm sorry this happened to you. I've had a real epiphany regarding the subject since it's been in the news so much. Not what happened to me specifically last night, but women who are coming out and accusing men for things that happened years ago. I believe the fix is not with men as much. Most men aren't going to abuse women. So to say better parenting and to teach them to respect us from an early age probably won't change those who would go on to hurt us. Coming from someone who was abused and molested most of my childhood from early on, I believe the fix has to start with we women. We have to take ownership and responsibility to make men accountable. We're not raised to speak up and stand benefits against authority or people who have power over us emotionally, physically. With the exception of voices removed, I believe we can stand up, the men will stop. We will allow the teasing and the bantering. And then when it goes too far, we feel we can't say anything, but we must. This is where our responsibility starts. And she says, you are the strongest woman I know, and you could teach this kind of strength to others. For me too, she was too young. She was 15 years old, and she had tons of years of therapy, 15 years of therapy, and she's now strong, and she recognizes it's her job to hold the men accountable in her life, friends, acquaintances, how they treat us, how they talk to us, And she's been like, this is what she says. She's been wanting to say this to a lot of women who've been doing the Me Too thing for a long time. Because when that first thing came out too, I was like, Me Too, this kind of sounds like a bunch of, okay, total, just, total authentic moment. It sounds like a bunch of whiny women saying like, oh, you did this to me in the past. Cause I was thinking, oh, this stuff, this stuff didn't happen to me. And then I was like, oh my God, I totally did. But like, I don't want to whine about it. I want to still win from it.
Mm-hmm.
So Barry.
Yes.
With all of that said, if our second step is to seek resolution and to go back into the hidden hurts of where we have suppressed these things, these trapped traumas, how do we resolve this once and for all? And I know it's not a one conversation or overnight thing, but how do we resolve it? How do we talk to ourselves and resolve all of these little nuggets, all these crumbs, so that we are more present to it and we're more confident about it?
Well, the first thing is what you said is about how do you do it? Because it's not you going outside somewhere else and getting someone else to listen or change or do differently. Like that guy, whatever he did, that can be done another time. It's not the resolution you need to go fix it with him. What really happens is the healing of your own history, the healing of your own memories, and a part of it is a combination of love and forgiveness. I mean, it sounds simplistic, but the truth is that to go back and rewrite history, you can do that if you want to go in psychological terms, but the truth comes back to is that can you love and forgive yourself enough so that stuff doesn't actually have any impact on you anymore? You can go back to those memories, you can actually reparent yourself even, but the truth is what happened through all of that journey, when you go back in time and look at what happened in your past, is to love and forgive yourself and know that you did the best you could with what you knew how at the time. Okay. When you start getting that perspective, you start to realize you're doing okay and you can actually raise your own support for yourself.
Three steps or three things, three examples. How do we love ourselves and forgive ourselves so that we can surrender to those things and they don't have power anymore?
Well, the thing is, for most people, when we have things like that past, particularly in the case for women, is, as you said, there's judgments you place against yourself that basically crosses you bare because of what you allow to happen. And so that path puts you in a position of you can't win. And for a lot of women, they actually get depressed from this. And by the way, depression is really suppressed anger, as you probably know. So depression doesn't help either. So when that pain of piled up judgments is too much, the only way out is to start looking at forgiveness, to actually become willing to let yourself off the hook. Because what you're doing is you're just nailing yourself to a cross you didn't build. And so it's a willingness to take a different position, because what happened then happened. That's what did happen. But you can let it crucify you now, or you can make peace with it by loving yourself enough to let go of it. Because again, you did the best you did at the time with what you knew how to do. If you knew differently, you would have done differently. That's the simple truth. So to shame yourself, it doesn't work.
Yeah, I hear a lot of women in the traumas about this is that they are still holding on to resentment toward the person, also the person who attacked them. Mm-hmm. And so what would you say about that? What do you say to your clients, Barry, the women that you work with who are still angry at the man? In this case, I'm going to say man, woman, right? So right. The man, maybe even the father, the assaulter, who is it that has their power somewhere else? So the power is not in here. How do we resolve that?
I'm actually working with a client right now whose father's he's now got dementia and he's basically about to pass. And so she can't fix it with him. He doesn't have any reference point or understanding or even the ability to mentally understand what happened. Mm-hmm. So the work has to be inside of her. Mm-hmm. So that's the first thing. Secondly is, and this is an old thing I've said before, that like the definition, not definition, but the way I explain resentment is basically you're taking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Absolutely.
Because you're toxifying, as you know, your own system, because you won't forgive them. But the truth is, it's not so much the resentment as it is the guilt inside. Guilt's inwardly reflected, resentment's outwardly reflected. If you feel resentment for somebody, 9 times out of 10, it's protecting the guilt you have inside that you don't want to release. So
this is actually a great question. And I agree. This is, a lot of us are experiencing this. A parent has passed away. The person who's assaulted us is no longer, mm-hmm. We'll never see them again. And it's like you need to find the resolve inside of yourself, but how? And so here's an example. Erin is, she's an amazing women warrior, and she was really excited about this broadcast. So thank you. And then we had all the tech issues. Persistent warrior, right? Patient warrior. So Aaron says, I did reparent myself. And I love that word, reparent, right?
Yeah.
Is to be a parent to the inner child within ourselves that, our parents can't be when they're no longer with us or whatever, not even alive. I did reparent myself with one of my assaults, and it was wonderful. I'm in the forgiveness stage with the one. However, I still freak out when I think I see him, and I get very hypervigilant for a week after. How do we get past this? And I'm also betting that it might even be someone who reminds us of them, not necessarily who is, maybe a smell or a song. It's like not even the person, but like what that person represents and what reminds us of that person.
Right.
A trigger, exactly. So how, I talk a lot about this with like, cutting the cord, and that's what they talk a lot about in hypnosis is cutting the cord and, taking your power back by extracting that power that person you've allowed to take away from you, not that person's taken from you, because that makes us a victim that can't change the circumstances.
Exactly.
So how would you answer that to Aaron? How do we get past it when we have this memory and it still continues to replay?
The simplest way of putting it is forgiveness is not a one-time deal. It's a layer, peeling layers of an onion. There's tiers and there's different deeper levels to get to. And with forgiveness, it's something you may go back and actually forgive the same scenario, same situation, same person 17 times. Because you might find you got to a forgiveness and then maybe a month later some deeper stuff comes up, because in many cases that abuse, that hurt was over many years, and one half-hour session of forgiveness may not fix it. I'm sorry, this is the truth.
Right.
But one of the ways I work with clients is I work with them there's two different ways I work with clients to help them release the anger, because the anger is the expression of I'm saying this. Anger, you can't be angry about something you don't care about. So when anger's being suppressed, it's constantly controlling the love inside, the compassion inside, the care inside. So when I work with my clients to help them basically release the anger, which is not at the other person, it's release the anger energetically. And so you can do it through writing or through yelling or other things that express physically to get it out of the system. When you get to a certain point, and it's not a timed experience, but when you release the anger enough times, it could take 3 minutes, it could take 3 hours, depending on where you are, you'll find the energy will shift automatically because you've let go of enough to move into compassion. When you move into compassion, that's when you can do forgiveness, because you care enough about yourself and you made enough space in your energy to let go and actually be peaceful with yourself. So forgiveness is where getting back to inner peace and self-love. And it may be that you get to this place and it lasts for 6 months, but then something else may show up. You didn't do it wrong. It just means that you've gone to a different level, and having the willingness to say, oh, another layer came up, is the way to approach it from a more positive and directional way.
Yes, I love it. And I love that Erin just spoke exactly to what you just said, is that's why she said she's in the process. It's an onion, and onion's really great for the liver, by the way. It's got a lot of sulfur in it. And so it's a very power detoxifier, right? So it's
and you shed tears. It's good. Yeah.
And you shed tears. Yeah. It's a total cleanser, and like cleansing of the eyes. I always say like it's cleansing of the eyes. Your eyes are sweating, your eyes need to work out too. And like cry, you guys, like don't feel, okay. I'm not even gonna say don't feel shame, because here's the thing. What Erin, you just said, and this is the work of Brene Brown, who I absolutely adore, and she's revolutionizing the way that we look at self and self-love and self-parent and self-care, is what is your relationship to shame?
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say of all of the emotions, what is the number one that you're most addicted to? Are you addicted to love? Are you addicted to shame? Are you addicted to fear? And so having it, not like what you want it to be, but like, what is it? And so for the majority of us, we're so addicted to shame that we can't forgive ourselves, because shame is the cock blocker of forgiveness. And
that's one way of putting it.
Right? Or like cock blocker, well, whatever.
Well, because shame is built on judgments.
Correct.
So forgiveness is what resolves judgments. So obviously if forgiveness doesn't work when you got shame, because shame is basically saying, let me hold on to these judgments and not let them go. So of course you can't forgive. Yeah.
And it's like, even saying the word judgment, Barry, even like kind of taking a step, another layer outside here, is that judgment is not bad. It's what we actually need to decide is something safe or it's not safe. Like
Right.
I'm judging you. We're always judging everything around us. And this is a primal instinct. Is this a bad thing or is this a good thing? Is this a dangerous thing? Is this a good, is it a toxic
Right.
thing? Is it like a loving thing or is it, what is this? And so we need judgment. So when people deny themselves judgment, they say, oh, I don't judge, or not to judge, but then we judge.
God,
It's like,
no. Don't get me started.
we cannot be delusional to the fact
I mean the judgments that you're using as self-flagellation tools. I don't mean a kinky way. I mean it in a negative way.
And that's why I wanted to clarify that judgment is not a bad thing. It's only bad if we're using it to shame ourselves. And so this is an example, Aaron, and for everyone else who's listening, is that with this process, I realized that if I go back to my addiction, and I would say my relationship to shame, it's no longer an addiction. I divorced it. And so I have like a relationship-ish with it, but it's kind of like having a divorce and having like visitation rights with a child, like I still have to deal with it, but it's not like driving my car. So my commitment to you guys is my life. And what I get out of being a stand, like Barry is a stand for women and empowerment and connection and love, that brings me love and joy. And so that's what's driving now. And so that's why I'm doing this video with Barry. And so my shame and my relationship to shame started back, like I said, when I was trying to get my needs met by looking a certain way because I got attention. Mm-hmm. And so I realized back then my mom was trying to stop me. She was trying to prevent me from the consequences of that, which was, being called a slut or getting cornered by men or being raped or being murdered in her, experience. Like, oh my God, what worst case scenario. And I'm just like, Mom, I'm not doing anything wrong. I'm just dressing like this and trying to get attention, and you're not giving me the love and attention that I need. So I'm going to get it from someone else. And then the men would shame me about looking a certain way. And then I would be I would be ashamed about that. And so I was ashamed by my mom, by what my mom said, not realizing she was trying to protect me and do, greater good for me. Then I was living in shame about the way the guys talked about me. And then in order to escape that shame, instead of changing the way that I was getting attraction by other people, by self-love, right? Because that would have changed everything. If I loved myself enough to not need that attention in that way, right, I wouldn't have been doing that. But I didn't get that back then. And so then I would experience shame from my mom, shame from the guy. I can't win anywhere. And so I would drink and do drugs to suppress the shame, and it would drive it down even further. It's no coincidence that I got IBS and autoimmune disease and parasites and viruses and heavy metal toxicity. And it's how all of we women are surviving now. We are not. We are driving ourselves into our own coffin with this shame and the suppression of this shame, instead of realizing that we are responsible for our emotions. We can get through these things, and we need to come together and stop wearing the mask and just let ourselves feel.
Yeah, that was the thing, by the way, what Aaron said about reparenting. That's one of the challenges, because as children, we trust the adults around us to lead us the way we think that we're supposed to go. And by the way, one thing I'll throw at you as well, because you mentioned this about your father, is that there's really 4 different ways that we look at love. We either look at love from how our father treats us or our mother treats us, or how they don't treat us. So we do one of the 4 ways of responding to that. Sometimes we rebel. In my case, I rebelled against the way my dad raised me. So it wasn't so much I copied him as I did the opposite. So there's different ways of doing things. So just be aware
we're
compliant
or defiant.
Right. And the truth is, and this is Bruce Lipton talks about this in Biology of Belief, the first 7 years of life, we don't make decisions. We just learn from everything around us. And so we get imprinted by the way that we are appreciated and loved by the adults around us, good, bad, or whatever it is. So it is a challenge sometimes to look back and go, that's not the way I want to live. I want to reparent myself. So what Aaron did was the right choice, is to reparent yourself and be the adults that does care and love the child as a healthy relationship. Then you build from there.
And Barry, Christina, I think just to tune out, Christina is one of my previous mentors that lives in Canada, I think still. And she says, this is a great session. Thanks for doing it. You're so brave and strong. Much love to you, Diane. Diane, can you tell me who the man is? It's Barry Selby. That's why I brought up the names. He seems like an awesome counselor, therapist. You could actually see him if you go to my website, DianeKazer.com, click on podcast. He was one of the sessions that we did. Can't even remember, like the first 10.
It was a while ago, yeah.
It was a while ago. And so we talked a lot about this kind of specific topic, is about how we can come together on a mutual understanding, but it starts with self-respect. It starts with self-reflection. It starts with curiosity.
Yeah.
Why is this happening? And going and being curious enough to not accept things as they are, but also not living in the cesspool of, oh shit, this happened to me. I'm probably not beautiful. They don't see me the way I do, but like, people will treat you the way that you treat yourself, as sacredly or as non-sacredly as you treat yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So again, I'm not saying that this is the main reason of rape because you don't love yourself. Not at all. Like what happened to me in the kitchen, whether or not this is an energetic thing, maybe I wasn't carrying my around myself, like who knows? But like, all I know is that the aftermath of what happens with us on all of this is that it is a call to love. It is a call to action, and it is a call back home to our hearts. How can I love myself through this, beyond this, and despite this? And go, you know what? Hey, I'm sorry that this guy, hurt people. And like Barry said, if he didn't have a good role model as a father or maybe as a mother, then he's acting out. And if he's not happy in his life and he's depressed, then he's going to try to project that depression onto other people and bring them down with him. It is up to us whether or not we allow them to bring us down. Do we rise or do we fall? And I don't want to fall anymore. For too many years, I continue to fall and drink and delusion and depression. I don't want to feel it, Barry. I don't want to feel it. This hurts to feel this shit. I'm not going to feel it. I am a tough woman.
Yeah. And so you put up a wall.
What happened to me? Yeah, put up a wall.
But women do that. They put up a wall and they become tough. But what happens is they're actually dying inside. Like the health work you do for so many women is because they've abused their organs unconsciously because they haven't learned to love themselves again. They've forgotten how to because they put up so many walls. They've become so artificial. They don't have any connection to their emotions or their heart or their feelings, and their organs, as you know, suffer. So, your work's important for that too.
Yeah, our work is important, ladies. Your work is important, and so here's the last step. So the first step is awareness. How did I play a part in this? How do I get my needs met? How do I see the opposite sex or whatever? Number 2, resolution, not retribution. So not like I'm going to punish you, like looking at ourselves. What hidden hurts have I suppressed? What are the locations of these trapped traumas? Like exploring your health situations. Do you have a thyroid problem? Where am I not speaking up? Do you have an ovarian problem? Cancers, cysts, PMS issues. Where have I trapped my traumas and maybe things that you're disappointed in, or guilt or shame in those organs, which a lot of we women do. Infertility is another huge one. Where am I holding it back and pretending it's all okay? And I'm not talking to loved ones about it because I am experiencing shame. Why do I experience shame? Third step is action to prevent having to react, is be yourself. But first of all, do you even know who you are? I mean, a lot of us hide behind these traumas and we don't even know who we are because of it, because a long time ago, these things happened. So we're just starting to learn, like we're giving ourselves the permission to explore, who am I anyway? Who am I beyond this incident where this happened? And it feels so amazing, you guys, to learn who you are. And like, I'm in Sedona, walking around these lands, these sacred lands, like, who am I? I'm a child of God. I'm an earthling, just like everyone else. And I want love. So this is being yourself, but being mindful of your intentions. So Barry, let's end on this and then talking about being a boundary badass instead of being a boundary bitch.
Right.
So how can we be ourselves, but still like, hey, I'm playful. Hey, I'm sexy. Hey, I'm like sarcastic. How can I be myself with the right intentions and not shame myself when I'm getting the kind of attention that may trigger that shame wound?
Right. So this is one of the simplest things. I've shared this on so many different summits I've been on, interviews I've been on. I've said this so many times. It's so simple, but so needed. Because when I ask my audience, when was the last time you looked in the mirror and actually saw yourself? When was the last time you actually saw the woman or the man, if it was watching in the mirror, and really appreciated who's in the mirror? So one of my homework assignments I give my clients, and anybody who asks for it, is this 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the mirror, 5 minutes in the evening doing mirror work. Spend 5 minutes looking in your own eyes in the mirror and connect with your heart. Either connect with your adult heart or connect with your childhood heart, the part that was wounded a long time ago, and tell her that you love you. Say it until you feel it, and do that for 5 minutes in the morning. If you do it 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes in the evening, 38 days later, your life will be transformed. You can do other things too, but if you just do that alone, it will heal so much of the wounds that you've been carrying for so many years.
That's why I love you, Barry. Right there.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stance that I want women to see that men are capable of. And this is what I want. This is what I want you ladies to feel. I want you to feel beautiful, even though maybe you've been conditioned by someone around you or told you that you weren't beautiful or you were fat or pinched your waist or told you need to lose weight or stop feeding your face. I'm sick of this shit.
Agreed.
Take your power back. You get to decide what's beautiful. You get to decide. And what's beautiful comes from here, not from what other people's projections are as to what makes you beautiful. It's not in a rap video. It's not in a magazine. It's inside of you. And this is why when men like Barry come out like this and share like this and ask we women to step up and give us permission, because they are saying, look, you can fall into these hands. These hands you can trust and still use your discernment, but I am a man who can be trusted. This is where I ask you ladies, if a man shows up into your life and you're hetero, right? And they're like Barry and they're giving you a space to step into yourself, would you even walk into it?
Ooh.
Would you? If the answer is no, I still choose pain. I still choose projection. I still use suffering. I still choose that. Then you have a lot of work to do with your hidden traumas and your hidden hurts and getting your power back. So that you have to go back to that step, because there are a lot of men like Barry out there. And I used to say to myself, why can't there be awesome men? And that was me living in my block. I didn't want to believe that there were, because that would mean that I would have to step up and be authentic. And that would mean that I would have to show myself and also risk losing, because we lose every time. We gain and then we lose. This is life. So I got comfortable with my losing muscle, realizing that this attachment, this stuff we become so attached to define ourselves, this codependence is what creates the fear of attaching to begin with. And so I loved what JP Sayers said a long time ago in the work of my life coaching, is that have an 80-20 relationship with attachment. We cannot not attach at all, because we wouldn't have any connection to other people. So if we have 80% attachment to self and to getting our needs met by loving ourselves, and if we have 20% attachment to the outside world and getting our needs met through other people in love, then if we lose that 20%, we still have a large portion inside.
I talked about it yesterday on Facebook Live.
You did? So you guys go.
Yeah.
So I'm going to, are you still watching over there, Corey? Can you, I don't know if you can hit at Barry's, because people can probably add themselves to Barry's Facebook from here and go watch that video, because. And
I can post below, I guess, once we sign off.
Yeah, and you guys can post below. I want you guys to follow Barry and his work too, because he's a champion for the feminine divine, and he is someone that really has helped me understand masculinity, femininity, shadow side, light side, how to communicate effectively, consciously. And that's why it totally worked out today that we were on, except instead of the other person I was supposed to have on. And so that is the third step, is to really, ladies, if a man opens the door for you, if a man gives you a compliment and it's with genuineness, use your intuition. Use your gut instinct. What is the piece, Barry?
It's the fact
if someone gives you a compliment.
Because can you tell the difference when someone gives you a compliment or someone gives you a compliment with a hook?
Yes.
That's the
Can I give you an example? Let me give you an example, because this is what I wanted to end on. The thing that got me to the point of actually asking what I should do was what pushed me over the edge when I went to, after this had happened, the next morning, I went to go think. I wasn't feeling safe at my place. So I went to go to a coffee shop, and I went to go order. And I was ordering, getting ready to pay. And a guy walks up and he's like, looks me up and down and he goes, and I'm not wearing anything super suggestive, Barry. I'm wearing my Lululemon shorts and like my unicorn hoof boots things and a jacket. And I've got my dog on the leash next to me. And he goes, looks up and down. He goes, well, aren't you a cute little number? And I was like, look over at him. He's like 80 years old with like hair growing everywhere. And he's smiling at me and I'm going, thanks. And I'm just thinking, this is awkward. And he said a couple more things, blah, 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 asked me what I do. And I'm talking to him and I'm entertaining it, Barry. I didn't say anything Then the next thing that came out of it, I was like trying to walk away gracefully. And I say, well, nice talking to you. I'm going to go find a place to sit. And he goes, well, I've got a place for you to sit, and looks down at his crotch. And I was like, and I go like this, ha, 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 here's me, ha, ha, ha. And I go sit down. I'm like, fuck this. Fuck this. An 80-year-old innocent man can get away with it. And I walk away like, he. I'm like, no more. I don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
I don't want any of us to do this anymore. That's inappropriate. If he was 80 years old and opening a door and going, oh, I'd be like, oh, thanks. Barry, what do we do there? What do we do? How do we be a boundary badass there without being a bitch?
This is the first of all, it's practice. It's not like an instantly given gift that you suddenly develop the superpower of being able to be badass about your boundaries. It comes from a place of learning, part of it, and it comes from a place of self-respect. Because the thing is, if you have any, as I said about the hooks, we're getting compliments. If someone gives you a compliment with a hook, that's one thing. If you look for compliments with a hook to bring it in, that's the trap. So when you're in a place where you have no attachment and you're out doing your own thing, someone gives you a compliment, you can just go, thank you, and then move on. If they throw an insult at you like that one, women, you don't know the power of your gaze. You can fry a guy's brain if you look at it in the right way. So the recognition is you have the ability in your boundaries. I meant, but in the sense of like you can reduce a man's ego to this much by the way you look at him. So you can say things to him to put him in his place. Now, yes, you may have to be prepared with a few phrases you've practiced a few times because you may have an immediate response because you didn't realize you sat down. Like, I should have done something different. But if you have some things in your mind to just realize, like, dude, seriously, first of all, you couldn't keep up with me. Secondly, I deserve better respect than that. And so you can do that. I don't want to talk to you. And that's the thing. If you can declare for yourself, not that you're better than him, that he doesn't deserve your time because he doesn't, it might change his perspective, possibly. That's one idea.
Yeah. And that puts an end to it because obviously this guy's been getting away with it too for a while. So apparently. It's respectfully, you know, there was another guy who drove by and complimented me the other day too. And he was like, man, how do you look like that? And he seemed more genuine. It wasn't like, hey, you know, like he wasn't that slimy look on his face and didn't feel like that. And I was like, oh, I just take good care of myself and I love my body. And he's like, man, you know, I remember back in the day, and we had a good conversation, and it was because I wasn't like, oh, thanks.
Well, yeah.
You know, it was like, I just reacted like, oh, thanks. You know, it was kind of like that. Yeah. And I felt safe. And so there's a way we could do it in a playful way, in a serious tone, and like, you know, and use that as a reflection to instead of like doing it in a very seductive manner. And so there's one more thing. Nurse Corey had my business partner, she just posted the link to how you can follow Barry and listen to a whole bunch of his other videos.
Thank you, Corey.
I'm also, yes. And then I'm also, posting something right now. There's something that I have been working on a long time in terms of the, you know, reversing depression. It's something that I don't know why it's not showing up right now. Corey, can you put it on there? I'm going to have, or actually I could probably see my own video up here. So something I did last year, it was called Heart to Happiness. And I interviewed 25 happiness experts from around the world. And something I've been working on, I'll post this in the comments, and I'll also post this in the description, is, you could see it probably, it just popped up. So that's something that you can see 25 experts talking about various things that cause depression. So there's sexuality in there. So there's 7 key areas that I've identified in people who are key areas that drive depression. And the statistics of depression today are crazy. Depression, I feel like, is one of those things that is something that will drive us to get our needs met, like we've been talking about today. The statistics are absolutely crazy. It's the #1 cause for disability today. It's the biggest expense for employers. There's 7 key areas that are driving it: social, emotional, spiritual, occupational, intellectual, physical, and financial. And so it's our job to discover which one of those key areas that is causing and driving our unhappiness. And I created an entire survey around this so you guys can be empowered with what is most deficient in my life, that there's a hole and I'm looking to fill from the outside world. So you guys can pick from whichever one of those experts. Barry was not on that, but I can just say that this is another one we just added, you know, based on sexuality. And in fact, I should probably put it in there somewhere, Barry, and say that you're the 26th.
What's the name?
Totally, because sexuality is a part of it, but I didn't really think about that. So we could put this one in there. Maybe we could just do a professional one. I don't know. But that is something that you guys, I launched. It is very powerful. It's something I worked on for 4 months total, 80 hours a week. It was a labor of love. And I'm just bringing it back. I'm calling it 25 Days of Happy. And it starts today, December 1st. Nice. So 25 days up until Christmas. We're even talking about suicide too, you know, the normalizing suicide, because we all have the thoughts, but it's like the actions. And so we want you guys to know what to do with when you have the thoughts. We're talking about energetics. We're talking about the different parts of our body, our thyroid, what drives depression. It is something that is a very, very tangled web, and it's up to us. We're the only people that can make us happy. So you guys get to decide what you want to watch on there. Please share this with anybody who will be empowered by this. I want you guys to follow Barry. I want you to be inspired by Barry. I want you to break down through Barry's teachings. I want you to break down and break through so that you can be your own best friend and your own boundary badass instead of boundary bitch, because we don't need to reply to shame with more shame, anger with more anger, vengeance with more vengeance. We can find our peace within ourselves and the whole world. Peace of the world starts with peace within ourselves.
Yeah.
So peace be with you, Barry. And all of you out there, thank you guys for being with us for an hour today. We are going to tune out. The last thing I'll say is check this out. So Corey, Nurse Corey, we brought these cards with us today, and they're tarot cards. And I just before I tuned into this today, I pulled the Devil card. This is something, I had a dream. I had some demonic dreams about 5 days ago, and they frightened me. And it was a demon trying to kill me and behead me in my dream. And so I'm like, what do I need to get through with all of this? And so the Devil, and this is actually what this means. When it's reversed, because I picked it reversed means detachment, breaking free, and power reclaimed.
There you go.
That's the theme. So you guys, very, very empowering, very inspiring, and very difficult. I may make it look easy because I'm talking about this, but this has been probably the most difficult broadcast I've ever done, because shame.
Yeah.
But there's no reason for us to feel this. So let's uplift one another, sisters and brothers, lovers and family members, everybody. This is how we come together. We have to bring attention to it so that we can take the power away from it, so we can take our power back. So thank you, Barry. I love you so much. This is totally last minute. It worked out perfect. I love you. Thank you for being a champion for us. And
My pleasure.
For bringing everybody together through love. Okay. Bye, everyone.